Well, welcome back to the most wonderful time of the year.
I was just thinking this. You said that. Welcome back to the most, and I was like, wonderful time of the year. And that's what you were going to say. Oh my goodness.
So, Christmas time of 2017 is a time of change for both Melissa and I, and a time of new beginnings and new hope and just gloriousness. Or so we thought.
Faith can feel like hearts and butterflies until someone lights a match and burns it all to the ground. Welcome to the Burning Butterflies podcast.
The sad thing is that there's abuse of every kind within the church. But the spiritual abuse is the stuff that just
What's a place there shouldn't be abuse? Like, there just shouldn't be abuse in a place that claims to.
Well, it ruins your soul. If you're new here, we suggest listening to our prologue episode first. This is the story of two women's journey through toxic church culture and spiritual abuse, all while finding healing in the end.
Sometimes it's just the facts, and if you get offended by it, that's a you issue. And if we can't be mature enough to have these conversations, even if some of the topics are difficult, then shame on us.
Before we dive into this episode, I do want to acknowledge that this is officially our 1-year anniversary of this podcast. We came out on Thanksgiving of last year. And so, we just want to thank everyone for sticking with us. And if you're new here, welcome to our crazy life.
Thanks for listening. Happy Thanksgiving.
It's just... Yes.
Even if
and it's just going to get more wild from here.
You're not in a cult anymore. I'm just kidding.
No. It's true.
Better days will come. Better days will come.
So better days, yes. It does get better. It does get better. So in our timeline, we are in Christmas of 2017, and we have some stuff go down around this time. So we've talked in previous episodes about how we have this family ministry. I'm leading children's with Brandy, and I'm doing all of this stuff. I had quit my job to VBS because, why not?
Just hold on to that thought. You're gonna.
So I quit my job. Yeah. But I had gone and I had gotten a part-time job again. And I was like, I need a job. And so I was looking for other jobs and everything. And so you, at this point, Froggy is back and you are looking for a job. And it's Christmas time. And so all of that kind of comes to a big head all at once. And I think it's funny because we didn't know at the time that you and I were both in very similar situations of we have to get a job, but yet we both feel like this ministry thing is something we're called to and all of this. We didn't know we both were kind of in that same place until we really started planning out this podcast.
That's why I said hold on to that thought, because Amanda quit her job for VBS, but then she really needed one. There's some... It's so funny to me. It's so funny to me. But goodness gracious. This is such an interesting time because, we Pastor Young Gun showed up, and now you have this stark contrast of, mail-in pastor versus like real pastor, and the differences are starting to show, and the dynamics are changing, and there's things. So to get to the winter of 2017, I got to go back to, so I was teaching at the Christian school, right? And school in Colorado gets out in May. And this particular May is the May that I spoke at the women's retreat, that I had just gone valiantly into the depths of hell to save Froggy from himself and his false ideas of who he thinks he is. Turns out I was the one who was wrong. But so I'm in the middle of all that because he didn't come back home until July. So it's May and school's getting out. And I needed a summer job because, well, no school, no job. Like, this particular school wasn't like, it didn't have like the 12-month. You can get paid the months that you're in school or the full year. You just get less throughout the other years. I've heard some teachers get paid like that. This school did not have that. So therefore, I was like 2 weeks before the end of May. And I was like, I don't have a job. Like, I've already told you on this podcast, I had no idea how we were making ends meet at all. I don't even know. But
and yeah, you're going to be out that $30 whole that you were making.
Yeah.
Like,
because it really would, because this is just another testament to the insanity of I kid you not, the church is as fake as its kitchen was. You were talking about. Somebody will get that later on.
No, tune into last week's Patreon if you want to understand that joke.
Oh, there you go. Anyway, so I made a lot more money than what I took home at the school. I mean, it wasn't like I was, raking in the bank, and like only bringing home. But I mean, it was I was getting paid decently. But after I paid the kids' tuition and their school lunches, then I was really like $30, right? So, yeah, I needed to do something. And I happened to meet a lady who did catering for a local restaurant at the private school. And so, and one of the girls that I taught with in the preschool was like, she worked for this lady and did catering. She said, you should go talk to her. So I was like, okay. So I went to talk to this lady and I was like, hey, any chance you need some help in your catering? And she was like, absolutely. I'd love to have you. And so at the end of the school year, I transition and I start working for a local restaurant in their catering department. So I did that the end of May. And then this company, this restaurant happened to have like a restaurant management position open. And I had sworn off restaurants because I got so burned by the last restaurant that I worked at that I was like, I will never, ever, 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 ever in a million years work at another restaurant because I got burned so bad. And I start catering at this restaurant, and this restaurant is not like any other restaurant that I've ever worked at. And like, it was amazing. And also like being in a working kitchen again, like there's like this nostalgic feeling or whatever. I don't know, but the place is wonderful. I love it. And so I start catering and I'm going there and I'm seeing how this restaurant is run and I'm getting to know the people and the consistency of the food and the quality of the product. And like, I am impressed with this place. And I'm so impressed that I apply for the management job. And I'm like, okay. And so, school starts in August. Froggy gets home in July. I started catering with this restaurant in May. And by the beginning of July, I had gotten the management job, and it was like, it came down to the wire. Like I was pushing off signing my contract with the school to like the day it absolutely had to be done. And I was waiting to hear if I was going to get this management job. And I was like, it was like down to the wire. But I mean, even Froggy was like included in this decision. And, you know, like we were making these big life decisions of like, should I take this job? What is this going to mean for our family? You know, and like at the end of the day, Froggy was on board because this was like the bread and butter job, like financially. And I think that was the last moment that he was on board, when he was like, you know, I'm like, how do I turn down this amount of money? You know, how do I turn that down? And I really just fell in love with this restaurant. So I was like, I really just want to, you know, take this on. So I think I was going to say yes, regardless of what he said. You know, like there was something inside of me that I didn't understand until recently, that like, this is where I belong, and what I do is like, I've always been in restaurants. I don't know. It's my calling in life, but, yeah, so that was all going on. So then we get to winter, Christmas, end of the year. And I mean, I am fully engaged in managing a restaurant. And it was kind of a slow start because I had to do like 30 days, like you have a 30-day training. But I mean, we're talking from July on, my requirement was 50 hours a week minimum. So that really starts taking me away from the church. And I had already disengaged a lot because when Froggy and I when he like left and we were on the rocks and this was all going on and he wasn't coming out, like I wasn't really attending the church a whole lot. I mean, I kind of was, but there was so much going on in my personal life that I was disconnecting. So then,
Yeah.
you know, the job and having to work on Sundays and whatever, and working 50 hours a week and all of that, like, this is when I really started to disengage. And this is coming off of like the Christmas before was like my pinnacle. This was the summit. I had run the entire Christmas Eve service. It was my idea. I picked the songs. I casted the people. I brought in outside people. Like I directed the entire Christmas Eve service. Was my vision, my creation, my work of art. So it was like that was the pinnacle for me at the church of where I started doing Christmas Eves to the one that I did in 2016 would have been my magnus opus. And then I got a job and I didn't do it again. So I had like, didn't even purchase. I don't even remember what we did in 2017 for Christmas at the church. So, and you're no help because you never went to Christmas Eve service.
I never went to Christmas Eve service. I can tell you though that the Sunday before Christmas that year, Brandy and I found it's like VBS at Christmas time. So it was called Road to Bethlehem.
Okay.
And so the kids, it's like you set up, it's like they walk through like the town square of Bethlehem. And so, you know, you have the scribe. And so you go into the scribe's tent and the scribe teaches you about what scribes did in Bible times and how scribes were important because they wrote the scroll that David got, or that Joseph got, that he had to go back to, you know, the house of David and go to Bethlehem in order to register and, you know, all of that. And then you go into the apothecary and, you know, this is where the wise men would have bought the frankincense and the myrrh, and the carpenter, and, you know, Joseph was a carpenter. And so you go into the carpenter's tent and all of this stuff, and it accumulates with this big, like, you see Joseph and Mary and Jesus in the stable, with the donkey and all of that. And so Brandy really wanted a real life, like that was her whole thing. Like more than anything, she wanted to bring a real life donkey into the gym. And I completely ruined her hopes and dreams. I was like, we are not doing that. She's like, we could bring sheep in. I was like, sheep are disgusting. They stink and they're stupid.
No, but what I
love about, we are not bringing.
What I love about that is that you have this SoCal California girl, and her idea of live animals and farming is like so romanticized. We just gotta bring in a live dog. She's got no clue. And then you're like, lady, look, they stink and they're a mess, and we're not doing that. Have you ever actually been around
but like more than anything,
she's like, I saw one on a cart sometimes. That's so funny.
Yeah. More than anything, that's what she wanted. And I was like, no, hard pass. But we set this up, right? And so like Justin was the carpenter, and we had this woman from the church came, and so she made biblical, authentic, like as close to what was realistic for biblical times of like what a carpenter would have worn and what a scribe and all of that. Like she did research and she made these costumes for them, because like we were looking at, because the church had like, old Bible costumes, but it was literally like someone took like a twin bed sheet and cut a hole in the middle to like stick your head through. And then like
you throw it over
they took other bed sheets. They just cut strips into them, and those became like the belts and stuff. And so we were like, we need some new costumes.
I mean, I think that there is like a simplicity pattern out there that is like church 101 nativity costumes, because these costumes at this church were the same exact pattern and style of costumes at my Sunday school growing up as a kid. So, I mean, like, that's how you do nativity costumes at church. And there's people out there listening, like, I know what you mean.
So, like, this woman who is, like, new to the church, she was a phenomenal seamstress. She came and she made all of these Bible costumes for us that were, like, accurate to the time and accurate to whatever, job these people had. We could not find a Joseph and a Mary because we did this like during church. And so we were relying on people who like were okay missing adult service to do it during children's ministry time. And so we couldn't find a Joseph and a Mary. So we didn't have a Joseph and a Mary at this one. We found a backdrop of like the inside of the stable, and it had a donkey and a sheep on the backdrop. So Brandy was happy with that. And then we just put like, we had like a little, it was like a prop that the church had, a manger, and we put a baby doll in it. And so that was our big thing that we did for church, and it went great. Like the kids loved it. They loved everything about it. And Tom was mad. Tom was mad because why would we do this for children's ministry and not invite the whole community? And this needed to be something that was done on Christmas Eve with Christmas Eve service, and not on a Sunday morning, because our kids know about Jesus and know about Bethlehem. The community needs to be, the children of the community need to know. And so, it was definitely like, well, you need to do this again, like this coming, like, I mean, we're talking like we're days away from Christmas Eve, right? And he's like, you need to do it for Christmas Eve service. And we're like, I'm out of town. Like we can't do that. Like I was like I don't even know, like I think the job and like the kit was like I was the narrator, but like it was like you walked in and I was like a townsperson in Bethlehem, and I was like, "Oh, welcome everyone," and then like I let them go through, their stuff. And so I was like, I'm gone. Justin was the carpenter, so I'm like, Justin's gone, so like we're missing 2 big roles. And the lady who was the scribe wasn't able to be the scribe on Christmas Eve, and so it was like we can't pull it off this year. And Tom was not happy, but we went because this is the year where Pastor Younggun led that Christmas Eve service.
Yeah.
And Pastor Younggun was like, well, we have plenty of stuff, like, and it's a family. His like, what Tom is wanting you to do is gonna like not go with like what we're doing. Like, it's 2 completely different vibes.
Yeah.
And so I do know that this is the Christmas. I don't know what happened. But because Younggun was the one who led that Christmas, like Tom was like, okay, you're a pastor. We ordained you. You're doing this family ministry thing. You think you know best. He's been ordained for a year now.
Yeah. I feel
And
like
so
the term,
you do Christmas Eve service.
yeah, I feel like the term family Christmas is really kind of resonating in my memory. Like, I feel like that was the vibe. We had to have gone. I just don't remember. Actually, I might not have gone. I probably worked. Actually, I did work. Yeah, so I don't know. Go ahead. Sorry. But something went down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know.
We
either,
know
but
something
this
went
started
down
a
between the
big-
worship team.
Yeah.
Yeah, the worship team and Tom had some dust up, and something went down. Because after this is where Corey and Topanga and the woman who like we had her do, like she was the evangelical gospel sharing lady.
Yeah.
Something went down between them and Tom at this Christmas Eve service, because this is like the start of a divide, and they very much viewed Younggun as their pastor, and Tom was just another member of the worship team.
Yeah.
And
this starts a lot of drama.
And
Something
so-
happened. And it's a shame that none of us know.
something happened. We don't know what, but it does start a lot of drama. But just before this Christmas Eve service, Brandy and I are cleaning out the closets and all of that. That we've talked about in last week's Patreon episode about when we bought the Baptist church. But Brandy and I are cleaning out the closets and everything, and her and I are just talking, and I'm like, I have to get a job. I've quit my job to do VBS. That was, months ago. I have to have a job now. So I had been kind of bouncing from one thing to another. I was very, very, just completely like, I'll just do kind of whatever. So I took a job for a little bit. I was like a marketing and front desk person for like a dance studio, and that didn't work out well. And I mean, I did random crap that just was not, I just was taking whatever job I could find because I was convinced I'm equipped for nothing. I have no skills. I have nothing. I'm meant to be doing ministry full time, and I just can't. And so I get this job, and I'm like, okay, I have to go all in. I have to, tough this out. I have to have a job for our family, to make money. And I try for a little while to do both things, do the job, do ministry, function in this high level ministry. situation, and I just can't do it. And so right before Christmas, I reluctantly go into the office and I let everyone know that I will be having to let ministry stuff go because I have this job now and I cannot do ministry. Within 24 hours, Brandy and I are over in the building. And we are in, I remember it vividly, we're in the gym closet and we're cleaning it out. And I get a phone call from Charlotte asking me where I was. She knew I was at the church because my car's parked out front. And I said, I'm at the church. And she goes, well, I'm over in the office. Can you come over here real quick? Tom and I would like to talk to you. And I'm like, yeah. And so I hang up the phone and Brandy and I have a like panic fast, like, what have I done in the last week that someone could have come in and complained about, that I'm getting called into the principal's office, that I'm going to get screamed at? Like, what could it be? What could it be? Because I'm trying to mentally prepare myself for what I'm about to get yelled at for, right? And so we do a quick, like, what have we done in the last week? We run through everything and we can't think of anything, right? Like, we haven't done anything in the last week. So we couldn't think of, and so she's like, it has to be something. And the only thing we could think of was like some of the aftermath from the summer stuff and the fall stuff, like with the beer ministry people, like maybe someone is upset and they finally said something, right? And so that's the only thing we could think of. So I go over there prepared to get my ass chewed. Like, just, I'm prepared to just, and I don't know what I'm going to get yelled at for. And I go in and it's Tom and Charlotte in the office, and Charlotte says, shut the door. And so, I mean, we've said before, like when they say shut the door, you're about to get yelled at. So I shut the door and Tom and Charlotte ask me about my job and ask me how much money I'm making and all of this. And Charlotte is the one who says, well, the church can't lose you and what you're doing for the church. So we'll match what you're being paid at your other job. So give them your 2 weeks notice today. And in 2 weeks, you will start working for the church. I was hired to be Tom's assistant. So in there, that day we sat down and it was this, you are not being paid to do the ministry that you are already doing, because we do not pay people to do ministry. So you will continue to do family ministry. You will continue to do children's ministry. You will continue to do all of like the social media and the website and pictures and all of that. You've been doing all of that for free for all these years. So we're not going to pay you to do that now. We are going to hire you to be Tom's assistant. And pretty much what was told to me in that meeting was Charlotte gets super mad when she cannot reach Tom. And Tom has so much stuff going on at the church that he cannot do family things. So my job is to make sure he has his family things scheduled on his calendar first, and then he has to plan church stuff around family, instead of what had been going on was the opposite, where they were having to plan family stuff around the church. And so that was the expectation. I was going to be the one to answer the phones and sit up front and greet people as they walked in. But my main job was to be the gatekeeper to Tom.
Yeah. That is so accurate, because like that is how it was told to the church too. Was like, you were Tom's assistant, you were not anybody else's assistant, and you were not there to do anybody else's work. Like if you came into the office, you were not allowed to give Amanda work. She's only allowed to do what Tom needs her to do, and that's it. And like you were told that in other ministries, like for a long time. Like it would come up, it would be like, well, we need to have this done in the office, or if it was something to do with like the website or social media or anything. It'd be like, but Amanda is Tom's assistant. You may not burden Amanda with anything. Like, that's crazy.
The only thing Tom told me in that, like, it was Charlotte talking the whole
Yeah.
time. Charlotte said, we've talked to Pastor Old Reliable and he agrees. They did not talk to Young Gun. They talked to Old Reliable. The only thing Tom made very clear was that, you know, people come into the office all the time and want to talk to him. He is not available, quote unquote, not available unless he gives me explicit reason. So I was not allowed to, like,
Yeah.
because I mean, like, we're in an old farmhouse that's been renovated,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, I'm right at the front door and he's like just down the hallway. And so I would have to be like, well, hold on a second. And I would go back and I would whisper, like, so and so is here. And he would be like, no. And so then I would have to go out and be like, I'm so sorry. He's on a phone call, or
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I didn't realize he's doing this or something right now. Like, if you want to like call and leave a message, or we can write a message down, or if you want to email him, then, you know, he'll get back to
Yeah.
you. And so I became his gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And that's honestly all he said to me in that
I
meeting. The
believe
rest of it was led by
No,
Charlotte.
I believe it because that's how it was.
But
Like, even when
what
I would come in, even if I would go in the office and like I was supposed to like get something, do something, like I was there for a purpose or a reason, like I would be like, I would ask permission. Like there was definitely an air of, you are not allowed to interrupt Tom. You are not allowed to just walk into Tom's office. There was nothing welcoming about, I'm just going to stop in and pop my head in and say hi. Like, I would walk in and like, if I needed like to grab keys to something because we were switching cars or something, you know what I mean? Even stupid stuff like that. Like I would find, if you weren't there, I would find somebody in the office and be like, is it okay if I just need to switch these out? I'm like, I'm supposed to give him this, or, you know, Froggy's got me coming over here because he's supposed to give me this, or, you know what I mean? Like definite gatekeeping.
Yeah.
100%. I believe that 100%.
So it definitely felt like the two of them made the decision. They ran it by Pastor Old Reliable, but like they offered it to me and I was like, okay. And they're like, when do you work next? And I said, I work tonight at my job. And they're like, okay, go in and give your 2 weeks notice, you know? And like, when I did, I was so excited too. I was like, this is my dream job. This is my, like, you stay at this job until you retire job, right? Like, because I've wanted to work in the church office ever since I first came to Come As You Are.
Yeah.
I never verbalized that out loud to people, but like, that was my dream,
Yeah.
right? And so, I called Justin and I'm like, they want to do this. I'm going to be making the same amount of money. It worked out for Justin because then like we're not out any money, but then I'm working during the day. I'm not, you know, working because I was taking jobs where I could work in the evenings or like overnight shifts or something like that because I have to do ministry.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it worked out better for our family. Justin was happy. It was like our dreams came true. And so I go over to the building, and Brandy's like, what'd you get in trouble for? And I was like, I got offered a job. And she's like, no way. So her and I have our little like, you know, yay
Celebrate
moment in the closet. And Pastor Younggun comes in and I tell him, and it was like he was happy for me, but like in the moment I couldn't put my finger on what it was that he seemed upset, but it came out later through our conversations that they didn't ask him.
Yeah.
And he was very, very frustrated at the fact that I was doing ministry with him, but I was hired without him being consulted.
Yeah.
And I was hired to do things on top of what I was doing with him. And so like
You mean to
tell me,
you mean to tell me that Tom and Charlotte made decisions without consulting anyone? You know,
shocking, I know,
just like
right?
they bought a building without telling anyone, you know, like on the pastoral team, because there's 3 pastors, and we made decisions that should have been brought to the pastoral team, and we didn't consult one of them. What? God. Sorry, go ahead.
No, 100%. And it's very on brand for Come As You Are and for Tom and Charlotte as humans in general. But it basically what it was, like, now in hindsight, I can look back at that time and I could be like, okay, you hired me because, first of all, you didn't want to have to deal with someone to do all the stuff that I was saying. I can no longer do this at the church as free labor because I have to go work a real job.
Yeah.
And so you didn't want to have to retrain anyone because I've drank all the Kool-Aid there is to drink, and you'd have to start fresh with someone. And that's a giant pain in the ass. So you don't want to do that. But then also I'm working closely with Young Gun. Young Gun is doing things. He's challenging Tom. He's pushing the boundaries. He's doing new things. We're not doing things just because this is what we've always done. I personally think I was hired in the position I was hired in an effort to keep me on quote unquote Tom's side.
Yeah. That was definitely like
getting
an Art of War
too much into Team Young Gun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that was the Art of War strategic. You played Risk. Like, that was a strategic move. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So my dreams have come true. And that's how I end 2017 is I am living my best life and I am so excited. And what do? My first official day of working.
What?
Tom is making these mailers for Christmas. So all of this goes down like the beginning of December, right? So we do these mailers for Christmas Eve service. We do Christmas and Easter, right? Sometimes we'll throw in, if we're doing like a big summer park event, we'll do like a summer one and invite people to like the summer park event, VBS and stuff. But it's junk mail mailers, right? And we spend, I am not joking, we spend 10 grand on these things.
Dang.
Like, I think if the general church congregation knew we were spending that much money, they would crap a brick because
I can't believe
that's
that
a big
that
chunk
much
of money to spend on mailers.
I mean, I know it cost
yep, it's
a pretty penny to do that, but I didn't realize it cost that much.
Well, because you think, I mean, at that point in our town, there was about 10,000 households within our town, and then there's like a little neighboring town that really we function as one giant community. So within those mailing radiuses, and then we chose a few targeted, like they weren't technically in our zip code, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we chose targeted neighborhoods surrounding our community. There was about 10,000 households, and between the printing cost for the mailer and then the bulk mailing price that we were getting, it cost about $1 a house.
Wow.
To send.
I mean, when you break it down like that, that's right. I just didn't realize that. I'm like, because I think about our community is not that's not 10,000. Like, we're not even near that. So to think about the fact that we were sending it above and beyond to 10,000 houses is like, that makes sense.
It costs a lot of money to do this, and Tom has always made the mailers himself. And every year they come in the mail, and it's embarrassing being someone who does graphic design and being someone who, loves things like marketing and all of that. Like, you look at these mailers and it's just so cringy because I would always say, it looks like Tom made this and Clippy from like Word, Windows 99 would pop up and Clippy would be like, it looks like you're making a mailer. Do you want me to show you some templates? And so like they looked awful every year. And so Tom, my first day of work in the office, Tom comes out and he's so excited because he has this mailer that he's made. And this is our mailer that's going out. What do you think? And I take my job seriously. Like I am here to serve God. I am here to give God my best 100%. And so I am honest. I say it in a way that like, I'm not like brutally honest. And I don't want to say like, that's the ugliest damn thing. And that's embarrassing. You can't send that out. So I said, it looks a little cartoonish. And Tom got so mad, but there was there's other people in the office, right? So he can't just like flip his crap on me. And so he's like, well, do you think you could do better? And I'm like, well, I'm not saying that. I'm just, like you asked my honest opinion. He's like, well, no, if you think you could do better, why don't you make something? This is what we'll do. You make a mailer and I'll make a mailer and then we'll send it out to the leadership team, because this is the thing. I get hired and we have no conversation with the leadership team. We can't even have a conversation with all the pastors. But if Tom has to prove that he's right about a mailer, we're going to send it out to everyone who gets invited to the monthly leadership meeting. And so he's like, you make a mailer and I have mine and we'll send it out and we'll just let the leadership team vote. So Lori is in the office. She is like the church, like she's kind of like the secretary / like bookkeeper. And so she's like, oh, that sounds fun. I'll make one too. So then it turned into like this whole like almost like a contest of we're going to send these out and the leadership team is going to vote. And the leadership team picked my design.
Yeah.
And Tom was mad. And so he made me, I had to call the print office and set it all up. Well, you made this, you have to do this now. I usually do this, but now you're the one who makes the mailers. In like this passive aggressive.
Okay, are you
like,
12?
Yep. Like, and so I had to get everything set up. I had to do it all. And then the day came to pick them up. Tom had like a freaking middle schooler. Tom had to drive me to the print shop.
No.
Just him and I had to drive to the print shop and go pick up these mailers. And he made it seem like he had to come with me because, I'm just a girl and I wouldn't be able to lift these boxes. But I need everyone to keep in mind, we get these mailers. We can pay the print shop extra to like divvy them out and everything and do the stuff that needs to be done with them in order for us to give them to the post office. We're not paying for that. So every time we send a mailer out, all of us women have to sit in the office and we have to count out stacks. So imagine 10,000 like bulk mailers, like the thick cardboard, like
yeah.
Think of what you've been getting in the mail for political ads and all of that.
That was my entire
We have to
mailbox
count those
the other
out
day.
into
Oh
stacks.
my God. Go ahead. Sorry.
We have to count those out in stacks of 100. And then we had to call the post office and ask them, okay, we're sending out to this area. They would give us the route numbers and we would have to put them in stacks of like, this route has 5,000 homes in it. So we would have to put 5,000 in this one. And we would have to have them in routes by each town, by zip code, all of that. And then we would have to take them to the post office that way. And in order to make it easier for the post office.
Yeah, it's just
and be a
another
blessing
thing
to the post office.
The church,
when in reality, we weren't going to pay for it.
no, The church only pays for what it doesn't have free labor to get done. If we have the free labor, we don't pay for it.
Exactly. And so never mind that I've been like moving these boxes for years, counting these stupid things out every time to go pick them up. I'm just a girl.
I got a question
I'm
for
not
you.
going to be able to get all of them.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Who do you think was the real estate agent that donated their real estate fees when they bought the church building? So they didn't have to pay commission. Anyway, go ahead.
Like when
The church bought and sold a building. Do you really think, like, how much commission was made off of that? Or did the real estate agent who handled it donate? Just something to sit on for a minute.
Yeah, that's a great
Let's go back
thing
to Christmas mailers.
to ponder.
I'm sorry.
So when we drive there, he's, basically telling me all these things that I need to know about working in the office and all of this kind of stuff. And he is almost like scolding me on the way there. But we pick them up and he like they always take like one and they like tape it to the outside of the box. And so he takes the one that's like taped to the outside of the box and he looks at it and he's like, this does look really nice. And that's as close to a compliment as you're going to ever get from Tom. And so we load it all up in the car. He makes it seem like, this is going to take forever and I need a man there to help me do it. Like, we load this in the car in like 2 minutes. And it was like a switch flipped. And the whole drive back to the church, he was happy. And he was like, okay, so, we're going to do this. And, when we get to the point of like membership banquet, I'm going to need you to help me with this and this. And it was weird.
Yeah.
Because it was like the whole way there, I was getting like yelled at by my dad is almost what it felt like. And the way back was like, I'm excited about you working in the office now.
Yeah.
And it was weird. And it was like, cause I even like talked to Brandy. I'm like, he has to go with me. And she's like, that's going to suck.
Yeah.
Cause her and I were like, we'll go pick him up. And then we were like, we're going to stop and get ice cream on the way back.
Right.
And like, have fun. And Tom's like, we're going to get the mailers. You're going with me. Get in my car.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay. And I was like, it was weird. It was like on the way there, he was like so mad and like scolding me about stuff.
Well, you could see
and then like on the way back, we were great.
His struggle with I need to be in control and everything has to be done my way, to where your ability and talents and skills to do these things outweighed his need to have control. Like, you can just sit back and watch this man's internal struggle through this whole story, where you're like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, that is just such a story of watching this narcissist personality type be like battling within himself of like, I have to do these things, but then, and now my feelings are hurt and it's not about me and it's going to be all about you, but oh wow, this is better for me. So now I'm happy because now I'm thinking of all the things I don't have to do because I don't like to do those things anyway. Like, it's so crazy. You could just see it.
Yeah. So, I am living my best life and working for this church that I love, that I have poured my life into.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What did they pay you? You're allowed to say.
Because, yes. So because I was not being paid for the ministry work I was doing, I was only being paid for 20 hours a week. But they were matching the amount, like the per hour amount that my previous job was paying me. I wasn't working full time. Like I was working a part-time job anyway, but so I mean, I would get like tiny raises, but just for the rest of my time at Come As You Are, the most I ever brought home was about $1,000 a month.
Wow.
And because I wasn't being paid for my ministry, I was only being paid for the work I was doing. And we'll see as our story unfolds. I'm originally hired as Tom's assistant. My job position changes. There's times where Tom would be like, he would be like in a sermon saying something about something, and he'd be like, and that's why we hired Amanda in the office, so she could take care of that for us. And I'm like, what did he say my job was today? Like, I never had a job title. My job title changed.
Yeah.
And it was so fluid depending on what Tom needed done and his mood and his attitude towards things. That depended on what my job was. There were some times where I was hired to do social media on the website, and then there was times where, no, that's your ministry. We don't pay you to do that. And so I never really knew like where that line was of what I was being paid for and what I was doing as ministry. And so, I mean, but I consistently put in 60 hours a week in that building.
Burning Butterflies is a listener-supported podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by our amazing supporters on Patreon.
Follow the link in our show notes to learn how you can become a Patreon supporter too. Supporters get exclusive access to bonus content each month, including outtakes, cut content, and supporter-only episodes. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating on your listening platform.
Burning Butterflies is a production of Asha Media. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.